Okay, are we ready? Yeah. So this is our segue from our usual life. We move from the banality and dreary worldliness of our everyday quotidian existence, and we move into a space which is spiritual, which is special. And so I talked quite a bit last week about how we mark this through ceremony, through ritual. And, as Buddhists, of course, we don't want to get too ritualistic, but sometimes rituals are useful, especially to demarcate our usual life from our spiritual world. And we do this not because our usual life is not interesting or important. Of course it is. But what I'm saying is that it's very useful to carve out part of our life that is entirely devoted to our spiritual practice. And that means to be present for that time and to be careful about how we use this time, because it's so easy, especially when you're sitting at home in your usual environment, it's so easy to just revert to those habits of being that we all have. And I've noticed in the time that we've been Zooming the last 2 years or so, people always began very upright, very proper, very respectful of the Dhamma. They were really careful to make sure that they treated this virtual Dharma hall like they would a regular Dharma hall. And then slowly over time, I noticed people started appearing in their bathrobes, lying down in bed and eating their noodles, or talking on their phone, or patting the dog or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with any of these things. Like, they're all human and we're human. But how we bring our mind to this experience now that we're having, listening to the Dhamma, this opportunity, is really important. And you won't see me sneaking off to have a pizza or starting to answer my phone or anything like that. Like, I treat this as a really special part of my life. And the same when I'm doing my meditation. I don't do other things. I tell myself, here I am, now is the time for meditation. And so these little boundaries that we put around our spiritual practice are useful because they contain something that's very precious. We want to make sure that we give this precious Dhamma time, our spiritual practice, importance and priority just for the next few hours. And it's really hard to do that. And so, yeah, we mark it usually with a little ceremony. We burn some candles and some incense. And then we start off by reflecting upon the qualities of our teacher, the Buddha, the teachings, the Dhamma, and our capacity to understand the Dhamma and to become a member of the Arya Sangha, the disciples who have realized these teachings for themselves. And so sometimes that's quite a lofty aim, but the way we're going to get there is by prioritizing our spiritual practice once in a while, once a week perhaps, or maybe more. And we're not going to get it by doing all of those other things that take our mind away from our meditation or our spiritual practice. And so let's begin. We'll do the Namo Tassa and then 3 refuges and the Anusitis. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. tassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Iti piso bhagava araham samma sambuddho vicacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhammasarati. Sattha deva manusana buddho bhagavati. Swakato bhagavata dhammo. Sanditiko akaliko. Ehipassiko opanayiko. Pachatang veditapo vinyuhiti. Supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Ujjupatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Nyayapatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Samicipatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Yadidan cattari purisa yugani atta purisa pukala. Esa bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Ahuneyo pahuneyo dakineyo anjali karaniyo. Anuttaram punyaketam lokasati. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So it's always good to recite the Dhamma. And now we get to practice some meditation. And so it's always good to do two. And probably we've left it too long in our week. It's always the case that we wait too long to meditate. And then when we finally do it, we think, why did I not meditate earlier? What was my problem? What was the things that were preventing me from taking the time to work on my spiritual practice? What are they? What are those things? Work. Okay, yes, it is important to eat and live. So work is one of those things that does get in the way of our meditation. There's many other things. Like I don't work for money, but I do have activities that I have to do. And so these things sometimes distract me from my practice also. So I get it. But I guess this question is mostly rhetorical. What are these things? that prevent us from doing our spiritual practice. And in my teaching recently, I've really been trying to get people to think about this, because it's very easy for us to not prioritize our spiritual practice, and then we still suffer a lot, and we will then go on a retreat. And I had this experience recently where all these people come to do a meditation retreat, and they come for interviews. They come to talk about ostensibly their practice, and by practice usually people mean meditation. It should be a bit broader than that, of course. And so they come and they want to talk about their practice, and then they end up talking about work and relationships and their friends and family and problems. And these are the things that are occupying their mind. These are the things that are preventing them from having any peace. But one of the reasons preventing them from having peace is because they keep on allowing their minds to return to these things when they come to sit. And so this is how those things come into our practice, and why I say it's so important to establish a container around our practice. And it can be just as simple as having that intention or that aspiration to just, before you sit, remind yourself, this is my time for spiritual practice. And this sets it up so that when these things from our life come into our mind, instead of becoming intoxicated and obsessed by them, we can let them go easier, because we've already established this ground rule that this is my time for meditation. And we can observe these thoughts, we can understand how they come into our mind and where they've come from. We don't want to push them away. We don't want to force them away. We don't want to get angry at ourselves or anything like that. But we do need to understand why they've appeared. And knowing that there's a cause for them appearing, we should understand that there is also a cause for letting them go. Of course, they'll arise in dependence upon all of the busy things we've been doing in the world, all of the things that occupy our days. So they arise because of that, but they stay because we want them to. They stay because we're interested in them, and because we're attached to those thoughts. You see how it happens when these thoughts come into the mind? They're so sticky. They just cling to you. You cling to them. And then you wonder why you can't let them go. And it's because you're still interested in those things. You're still attached. You don't want to release it. You haven't done with it yet. And you see they're so sneaky, even sometimes when you remind yourself, oh, just let go, Akaliko. You see them sneak around the back and come in the other side, right? They're so sticky and they're so sneaky. And sometimes you can watch them disappearing. And then you watch the mind reach out and grab back on and pull it back into the center of your mental world. I often think it's like those kids' toys. Have you seen those? I don't know what they're called. They're like really sticky, and you kind of throw them like that, but you hold on to it. What is it called? Does anyone know? What are they called? You'd know.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called.
Sticky things. And so this is what it's kind of like for us. And so these things trouble our mind in this way. Last week I spoke a lot about right intention and how we can work with the intention of renunciation, of letting go of that sensory world that we inhabit. And this is the basis for our intention when it comes to sit. You actually have to be okay to let go of that world for a little while, for a defined period. It's not forever, but during that time, that's what our aim is to do. And of course, many of you have seen Ajahn Chah or Ajahn Brahm or Bhante Sujato give that very simple illustration of holding on to something, which is what we're doing when those thoughts are coming in and obsessing our mind. And it gets heavy when you hold on. And the way that you let go is just to simply release and let go. You don't need to push it away. You don't need to throw it away. You don't need to force it. It's just a very simple matter of being willing to let go. So this practice of renunciation, this mental training of renunciation is powerful. And so that's the attitude, the intention, the motivation that we want to bring to our practice. And it's really hard because we think that that world outside is really important. We think that that's where meaning is found, where we, us, our personality, our identity is found. We think that's where happiness is found. But then when you come to sit, you see that you haven't got a moment's peace. And so we need to reorient our mind a little bit to understand that this is not where we find happiness. Instead, we find happiness not from holding on, clinging, getting attached, craving, but from letting go. That holding on is suffering, but letting go is happiness, freedom. So this is what we explore when we come to meditate, this taste of freedom that we can explore by meditating and letting go. So that's what we'll do for the next 20 minutes. We'll just practice letting go. It's so easy to understand, it's so difficult to do. And so let's take a comfortable posture. And begin again with that intention of just telling yourself, I'm here now to meditate. This is my time for meditation. Nothing else matters. You want to be here, no one's forcing you. And then take a few moments to set up your posture. Make sure you get comfortable. You're going to be here for 20 minutes. So find that sweet spot. And we begin really by withdrawing from the world. Sometimes it's useful to imagine the mind withdrawing. So we leave behind the world outside. And then we're just here in this space, this room. We're aware of this room. And we're aware that this room separates us from the world beyond. And so we're leaving behind the week, all of the stuff that we've been doing, all of the stresses, all of the joys, just letting them be. And aware of the room. Being here in this place. Drawing the mind away from the room to this body sitting here, feeling this body taking up space. Feel the general shape. Feel the connection of the body with this chair or cushion, floor. And as you're aware of the body, how is it feeling now? How does it feel to have this body sitting here now? Maybe you're aware of the temperature, touch of your clothes, the pressure against your back or buttocks. Maybe there's some tightness or tension, an ache, pain, a little rumble in your belly. And so by leaving that world behind, by leaving this room behind, by becoming aware of this body right here, right now, we're becoming more mindful, tuning in to this present, seeing what's going on. And if you see there's tightness or tension, you can ask, what am I holding on to in this body? And sometimes it's possible for that tightness or tension to disappear just by inclining the mind, by recognizing I'm holding on here, and letting go, allowing yourself to relax, allowing yourself to release that tension, release that tightness. And so for the next few minutes, scanning the body, seeing if there's any tightness or tension, and giving yourself permission to let go, to not hold on, to relax. It feels so good to relax. Holding on, tightness, tension. It's holding on to suffering. Happiness comes from letting go. And perhaps you see that by letting go of tightness, tension in the body, perhaps you see that already the mind has become more peaceful, that the thoughts have settled down naturally. We can relax our mind letting go of things that come, gently releasing, not getting involved, not holding on. It feels good to calm the mind, becomes more spacious, more clear, more powerful. And so with this relaxed body, free from tension, and this calm, quiet mind, turn our attention to the breath. And it appears easily, naturally, all by itself. Suddenly, it's there, and we're aware, breathing in, breathing out. And this breath calms the mind even more, nourishing, and comforting. So easy, so natural. Just breathing in and out, aware but relaxed for the remainder of the meditation. And now we're coming towards the end of our practice. This is our chance to review. And so we look back and remember when you first sat down, how did you feel? How did you feel in the body, in the mind? And now? What happened? What changed? And why? Were you able to relax the body? How did it feel? Did you experience some peace? How was that? Were you able to see the breath? What was that like? And what were you holding on to that was difficult to let go of? And ask yourself why. Why couldn't I let it go? So hopefully you're feeling more calm, more peaceful. You've been nourished by the meditation. So we can dedicate the merit of developing our minds to the benefit of all living beings. Thinking, may all beings have the opportunity to hear the teachings. May they grow in the Dhamma. May all beings attain freedom. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very good. So for some reason I'm remembering an occasion when I got a massage. It's many years ago, got a massage, and apparently I must have been quite stressed. And the massage therapist ended up getting really irritated at me and kind of yelled halfway through the session. And he was like, dude, I need you to work with me. You need to relax. And I remember those instructions, just thinking, wow, okay, like there's only so much, an external force can do when there's these internal things that are happening, like that holding on, how we hold on to stress. It's the same with our minds. We've got this container of our practice. We've heard the teachings. We've got a guided meditation to kind of keep us mostly on the straight and narrow. And even then, it's really hard to let go. And so this is why we need to train our minds. And you should know that it is possible to train your mind. And though it may seem challenging or remote, it is in fact possible to train your mind, which is why we're on this path together, right? Because we believe that it is possible. And certainly when I meet powerful meditation teachers, they always say, I know how to let go. And so even if they have a lot of responsibilities and they're really busy, when it comes to their practice, they have developed this skill, this art of letting go. And it's something that we can learn. And so, anyway, I'll finish with that optimistic thought. And we'll be back in 10 minutes. I'll have a quick break. So see you then.